I've noticed an interesting phenomenon. During the 18th and 19th century, many people that are known as geniuses today, such as Einstein, were considered stupid because they were very introverted and shy. So back then, the stereotype was introverts are not very smart. Yet today, it is the extroverts that are considered to be unintelligent, whereas many introverts have this elitist mindset where they consider themselves above the loud, rambling extroverts, who are seen as mindless, attention-seeking drones. Which is true, and where did all this start? Now, the first question is, introverts and extroverts are equally intelligent. There's an equal amount of stupid extroverts as stupid introverts, and as smart introverts as smart extroverts. Introversion and extroversion has no bearing whatsoever on your intelligence. It does not make you less likely to be caught up to pop culture, and it does not affect our ability to make crappy decisions. But why is it that introverts were seen as idiots for a lot of human history, but extroverts are not as considered as intelligent today? I mean, clearly, what I've mentioned above, like Einstein, is certainly a factor. You see people such as Albert Einstein or Nikola Tesla. These people were considered shy and eccentric. Einstein is literally the most iconic genius of the 20th century, and he set a very noticeable stereotype for geniuses. And one of those facts was being introverted as a child. But I'm not here to discuss Einstein today. There are actually some factors of a stereotypical genius nowadays that stray far from Einstein, and I'll get to that in a minute. But all that aside, drum roll please, because the largest factor to this concept today is the factor of how we view intelligence and how we view people. For a long time, society was built on a feudal background. There are the stupid, plodding peasants tied to the ground at the middle, the merchants, knights, scribes, and other middle-class, generally intelligent people in the middle, the ornate and extremely intelligent nobles on top of that, and at the very top, the Lord, the divine one with holy knowledge on top. Now, this is a very simplified view of society in the ancient times. Many of these are susceptible to change. Like, I'm boiling down what is essentially thousands of years of history into one stereotype. In much of Asia, for example, merchants were ascribed to the bottom status, despite having more money than some nobles. In Hindu culture, for example, the Brahmin class, that is the clergy, are generally considered on top of kings and nobles. But the hierarchy is generally what people stuck to. People knew their place. People who broke this formula were the exception, not the norm. Smart people were noticed. People that acted out were intelligent. I don't mean to say that they considered all extroverts intelligent. The local fool, the idiot that goes around and does stupid things, much to the amusement of all the other peasants, are generally considered to be more extroverted, and despite this being a very old stereotype, it was an extrovert that was considered stupid. However, the standard, not completely fairly dumb average person was introverted, and why were they so quiet? Well, clearly because they weren't socially developed. They had enough sense not to show themselves, but were still not intelligent per se. Once again, what I say right now is vastly oversimplified. In no way does this truly represent the thoughts of people during this period. I don't think it even accurately describes stereotypes during the period. Once again, the olden times are a long time, and things have waxed and waned over time. Something smart during the ancient times would be dumb by the Middle Ages, and vice versa. But what you can take away from this is that smart people that were extroverted were noticed. Smart people that were introverted were not noticed. And simply put, extroverted people slowly became a hallmark of, or not a hallmark, but a marking of someone that was intelligent. Now, we reach the modern era. Today, the perspective has shifted many ways. Cynicism, pessimism, and mystery are what are considered intelligent. And alright, there are introverted geniuses like Einstein, but the largest factor of why introverts are considered smarter is because, unlike in the old days where the dumb was the norm, and if you acted ignorantly, you were simply ignored, the ignorant idiots are what are paid attention to. Has anyone here ever heard of Ainan Celeste Cawley? Yeah, I thought not. This is a kid with over 263 IQ. But none of you would know about that. Now, who here knows Mr. Paul? Infamous Mr. Woods. Dumbness gets you noticed. And the smart people are the ones who sit back and laugh at them. Now, I don't mean to bash on these people. Some of them are great people. But the channels with people that are considered smart will consist widely of cynical people. This was a few years ago, but does everyone remember grade A under A? And then there's also the rise of the internet. People such as Felix Schellberg, our king Pewdiepie, are introverted people, and had the internet not been a thing, he would have mostly stayed in his own group. Hashtag BroArmy, by the way. Who else? Everyone hates him, but Mark Zuckerberg is another good example. Social media allowed introverts to flourish and show people their intelligence to a wider group of audience. Previously, this was mostly down to extroverts who would interact with a larger group of people. But now introverts had an equal footing to extroverts. As a matter of fact, you could also see that social media has been detrimental to extrovert people advantages. Alright. An extroverted person has more... They're able to interact with a lot more people now, and their extroverted nature will help them connect with even more people. However, it has certainly eroded any advantages they held over the introverts. I generally have a hard time recording videos like these because, if any of you know me, I'm a more extroverted person, and it's a little hard to record videos with natural reactions because there's no people around. There's no faces for me to talk to. If there's no faces, I lock up and just become a very unnatural and robotic person. In real life, people have said I'm very natural and I have lots of good ideas, but whenever I see these videos, I seem very locked, very robotic. I believe it is because there's no people around. Like, if you've seen my first video ever, I'm talking to a group of people. But after that, I noticed I have been a bit less... How would I put it? Natural? Anyways, there are many types of extroverts and introverts. There are even shy extroverts. People that enjoy the company of others, but don't enjoy being at the center of attention. As you can tell, this is not me. I mean, I gotta admit, being at the center of attention is sometimes daunting. God, that was the most embarrassing thing I've ever done. What was I thinking? As I filmed this video, the one thought in my mind was, how the hell did I end up here? I planned this video for like over 2 months, and when I got to it, I got cold feet. But I went ahead and did it anyway. Extroverts are not necessarily attention-seeking people. It's a common misconception. And another thing to say is that introverts are not antisocial. Some introverted people are very actually social and friendly. The concept of extroverts versus introverts is not attention seekers versus people who refuse to speak to anyone. Extroverts are comfortable being around larger groups of people and don't lose as much energy from being around people. They get bored if they're alone. Introverts, on the other hand, actually also get bored if they're alone. But they do enjoy the company of people. Not a large group of people. They don't want like 30 friends per se. They enjoy being with a select few, like 1 or 2 really good friends that they can connect with. And this isn't to say extroverts don't do this as well. Extroverts will most likely have a group of 1 or 2 very close friends, and another network of dozens and dozens of other friends. Introverts forego this network, and try to strengthen their bonds with the closer people more. Both have their advantages and disadvantages, but I won't get into that today. And once again, this is how I say the internet levels the playing field for introverts, because introverts are free to act like extroverts if they want to. They can film a video all by themselves in a room where they feel safe and comfortable, and they can post it on the internet for millions and millions of people to see. Pewdiepie, Felix Schellberg, he is actually an introverted person. He doesn't enjoy being around dozens and dozens of people, but he can still make a video to millions of people because it's not daunting. It's not daunting to him when he's in a room all by himself. Now, extroverts, of course, constitute around 50% of the populace, and they're not and they generally decide to forego their social advantages for the internet. Okay, what's a good analogy? Okay, warfare, because World War III is a big topic these days. It doesn't matter how good a soldier is at wielding a sword if there are guns around. Trust me, the greatest swordsman in an army will opt for a gun, even if he's just mediocre at it. Just like how extroverts opt for the internet, even if their advantage is not quite there. So, you gotta admit, a sword does make for a sweet sidearm. Sure, it's not very useful, but you can show your friends and just show off in general. Hey, maybe you'll get caught in a close quarters melee. Who knows? Also, heard it's good for opening cans. Anyways, the main reason people have started to looking to stupidity as their main source of fun is, I believe, because of postmodernism. According to Wikipedia, postmodernism is a broad movement that developed from the mid to late 20th century across philosophy, the arts, architecture, and criticism, making a departure from modernism. While encompassing a wide variety of approaches and disciplines, postmodernism is generally defined by an attitude of skepticism, irony, or rejection of grand narratives and ideologies of modernism, often calling into question various assumptions of the Enlightenment rationality. So, postmodernism is the belief of skepticism. This fact of introvert versus extrovert isn't always true either. For example, you remember the idea with a stupid extrovert during the medieval ages, right? Well, a modern introvert, a happy introvert who is shy but, quiet and, just generally sticks with their friend group, but is generally cheery, is seen as weak, stupid, and basically sheep-like. They're not very liked. The truth be told, the more cynical someone is, the smarter people believe they are. And cynics aren't known for their social skills. So think about this. Not all introverts are antisocials, but let's be honest here. All antisocials are introverts. If you want to know what the idea of a modern day genius looks like, just look at Rick from Rick and Morty. Great show, by the way. Not trying to bash on it. Go watch it. It's seriously good. Season 4, baby. So, to sum it up, introverts have leveled the field by playing internet, and the stereotype of a genius is a cynical antisocial. And there's more to it. Remember what I said earlier? Dumbness gets you noticed. Some stupid extrovert could make a TikTok video of him doing whatever this is, and it'll get noticed by millions and millions of people. And once again, this is where the system of postmodernism comes in. A modernist man would most likely ignore this stupidity. A man who believed in modernism would say, oh yes, there's this man here, but have you heard of that new Einan Cawley guy? He's got an IQ of 236. He's a Harvard, he can get accepted to Harvard by the time he's 11. A postmodern person won't pay attention to Einan Cawley because that's boring. He'll pay attention to the stupid TikTok kid because that's funny. This is actually a reason why people seem dumber nowadays compared to yesterday, even though society has grown more complex and things like food consumption have made our brains run at higher capacity. I mean, yes, there's also the fact that humans are actually getting genetically dumber, have gotten genetically dumber in the past couple of millennia, but our genes have not changed that much in 200 years. It's too little time. We have grown smarter because of a more advanced society, a more robust food system, and just generally because we are not brought up in rough conditions. Someone who has not eaten as much as a child will not be as smart as someone who is, say, eaten more as a child. Barring, of course, genetic differences. All people hear about are dumb people who do dumb stuff nowadays, though. So this is why they assume there are less smart people. This is known as survivorship bias. During World War II, American bombers over Germany and Japan were being shot down at an astounding rate. Well, okay, more like Germany, because Japan didn't really have the best AA, but German AA was amazing. Fighters were small and lacked the fuel capacity to stay with bombers for a long enough time, so they often had to break off quickly, and people believed that since the bombers had such a robust anti-fighter system that everything would be okay. It wasn't. When the fighters left, enemy interceptors pounced on the bombers. These bombers would attempt to fight back with the guns, but still many were shot down. And even the fighters could do nothing about flak cannons. AA guns shot at fighters and bombers alike mercilessly. So the Allies did a study. It was shown that the bombers were getting mostly hits on the wingtips, the tail, and the front end. So they armored those areas and removed armor from the non-hit areas, and they went forth. What's this? Bombers are getting shot down at an even worse rate. You see, the bombers that had the wingtips, tails, and front shot were the ones that survived. The ones shot in the middle or the engine were shot down and could not be included in the study. There are so many smart people in this world, but all you ever hear about are the dumb ones. This is also the reason people are saying the world is ending. The world only gets better and better, but the media scares you with stories of murders and shootings because those are the ones that sell. They don't tell you about the shootings that never happened because no one knows about that. They don't tell you about the peaceful, ordinary life because nobody would watch that. That's not newsworthy. It's survivorship bias. Or, well, unsurvivorship bias if you think of it that way, but You get the idea. Humans have grown smarter and more advanced in the last 100 years. And yes, the pessimist in the back is saying, well, yeah, remember what you said earlier? Since a society is more advanced, that gives dumber people a better chance to survive. And once again, that's true. But once again, I hardly believe our genes would face such a drastic change in the next couple of decades. Centuries later, we might notice our intelligence slowly falling. Millennia later, there will be results. But this is assuming that we survive for millennia more, as we are but insignificant beings in a blue rock in space. Our society can crumble due to an economic collapse a la the Great Depression style. A meteor can hit the Earth, taking all life with it. A gamma ray burst, light years wide, can strip off our atmosphere and destroy us all. But that's depressing. Stop thinking of what a so-called smart man would say. Think of what a wise man would say. We think, therefore we are. You have a 1 in 40 trillion chance of being born, and yet here you are. We live on a beautiful blue rock orbiting the sun at an astounding 67,000 miles per hour. Our sun, which orbits the galaxy at roughly 828,000 miles per hour. This galaxy, which chews a specter in our universe. Think smaller though, much smaller. You're a giant fleshy mech, created from roughly 7 billion atoms. All these atoms were created in a star another billions of years ago. When I think of these facts, any emotion fade away. We're here on an epic cosmic journey. Intelligence, extroversion, introversion, it all loses meaning. And for all of you that lose hope in life, just remember that. Extrovert, introvert, it doesn't matter. You all have the potential to be smart. Some people more than others, but everyone has potential.
Oh, and a little treat for those of you who have reached the end of the video but have no idea what I was going on for the last 20 minutes. On average, this is once again a broad sweeping overstatement, but introverts tend not to act out as much. Extroverts do tend to act out as much, or at least that's how the stereotypes say they do. And oftentimes, there is a bit of truth to this stereotype. Not necessarily. There's lots of introverts that act out and lots of extroverts that don't, but hear me on. If there were 100 extroverts in the olden times, with 50 dumb and 50 smart, the dumb ones would generally be ridiculed and most likely forgotten. They would most likely become the village fools for, unless they were extremely stupid, in which case they might earn themselves a place in history for being stupid, but generally speaking, there are not a lot of people that reach that sort of level. The smart ones would generally be remembered, and as a result, they would most likely be the ones you read about in history. If there were 100 introverts, 50 smart and 50 not dumb, many of them would be unfortunately ignored and assumed to be stupid, which is very sad, although once again, if someone is especially smart, they might earn themselves a place in history. Isaac Newton, Albert Einstein, all introverted. Nowadays, if it's the same situation, generally speaking, because it is not history, it is immediate, the smarter ones are not forgotten. The smart extroverts of today are currently not as paid attention to because they're well, quote-unquote, boring. I mean, you've got the exceptions, like Elon Musk and Bill Gates, I assume. Elon Musk and Bill Gates, but generally speaking, the people that usually are paid attention to are the dumber ones. The ones that acted out and did something dumb. Maybe when history changes, when history moves on and these dumber people are forgotten, things might become different. But for now, as of today, that is what it is. And once again, this is a vast overstatement. As I said, the old can happen today and the new happened all the time in the past. But believe it or not, apparently there's actually a quote in the Bible that explains this. Now, I'm not an expert on any of this stuff, so don't quote me on this, but there's actually a quote somewhere that says people that tend not to act out are assumed to be intelligent because there's an air of mystery around them. So I guess I'll just leave you off with that quote. Thank you for watching my video today. You successfully wasted 20 minutes of your life. 20 minutes you'll never get back. 20 minutes that you could have just saved when skipping to the end of the video and just reading the quote I'm about to show you. So, without further ado, I guess it's time for me to leave. Peace.